And thanks for staying with us and joining us on PM Express. And just handing over to me, we're talking about sports. I want to expand the conversation about football, but with a focus on the Ghana Premier League. Yeah, we don't do this enough, but I don't know if you noticed, the Premier League is over and it produced an upset there, right? And the fundamental question that has been asked on the back of that ending is that also triggering an end to the Hearts and Kotoko dominance? I know many of us are focused more on the Champions League, Man City playing, Inter Milan, the end of the English Premier League, and that really is a problem because we don't focus enough on our league itself. But let's do that because this is it's supposed to be the source that feeds the Black Stars, but is it? We're going to look at that a bit more. Maybe the problem that we may discover with our league will tell us a story about why we are where we are when it comes to football. Let's get into it. Let's break down some of the numbers for you, because if you look at the EPL as far as points are concerned, MEDEAMA won it. They won the league with 60 points. Yes, MEDEAMA. When was the last time you had a team other than Folk or Kotoko or one of the other fashionable ones come to the top of the table and win it? And they won it 60 points. And many are beginning to sit up and notice MEDEAMA. And then in second place is Aduana Stars. Yes, Aduana Stars. And I'm pretty sure at this stage you're wondering, so where's Kotoko? Where's us? House of Folk. Well, I'm going to the third one, and you still realize that they are still nowhere to be found. Bichem United also came in third with 54 points. That is our league, the league that we are supposed to be loving and supporting, that we all know, guilty as charged, we aren't. So let's have that conversation. And then, of course, the red one, Kotoko, Asante Kotoko comes in fourth place with 52 points. So that is the story of the league as it ended, the top four clubs with MEDEAMA at the top. So if you dig into this a bit more, another story begins to surface. And so let's focus on the two key teams that we've all celebrated over the years, that we've come to know as the representation of local football, local league football, House of Folk and Asante Kotoko. Asante Kotoko first, and then House of Folk second. Well, Asante Kotoko, as you've noticed, they are fourth with 52 points. But what about House of Folk? Where is that team that I love, that I support? Well, they were nowhere to be found. They were in the relegation battle and placed 12th. In fact, if you check their points haul over the season, 46 points, they were just 4 points shy of relegation. And that, for me, was alarming. So if they really dodged the bullet, we could actually be having a different conversation if their games towards the end of the season had not helped them out. They would have been in relegation by now. And we will not be talking about House of Folk playing in the Premiership in Ghana. But that is the story of House of Folk. I know many of you who support House of Folk and Asante Kotoko have been asking the question, what is really happening with your club? And when I come to the analysis around the going to the stadium and supporting your club, maybe that will give you the answer. Because if you're not supporting your club, how do you expect them to perform? So there is a link back to what we do as fans as well. But also, its bigger implication on Ghanaian football. And Ghanaian football is the biggest advertiser for Ghana when it comes to putting our name out there on the international market. So this has a lot of impact, not only on the excitement and the jubilation and the euphoria that we get when we support our clubs, but also real life implications for our economy, our image as a country, etc. So that is why this is important. And if you look at the 5-year winning trend, if you go to 2018, 2019, you notice that was truncated. 2019, 2020, again, there was no Premier League. But then you come to 2020, 2021, House of Folk was a winning team then. Yes, back then. But one of the things I want you to pay attention to is the winning price, which is 250,000 cedis as of 2020, 2021. Is that enough if you play a season of many, many games, indeed, over many, many months. And then you end the season, you win it, and get 250,000 cedis to take home. We need to ask the question whether that is enough reward for all the hard work that they put in, right? So that's one of the key things that jumps up at me when I look at this. And then 2021, 2022, Asante Kotoko won it. And they also went home with 250,000 cedis. So you see the story about the dominance of these two clubs. If you track back just in the last 5 years, they've been winning it, alternating. But then MEDEAMA knocks them over. And you must ask the question legitimately if the dominance has come to an end or something really happened this season that threw them off course. We don't know. When my experts sit down, we'll have the conversation. Of course, in the story of MEDEAMA jumps in, their winning price has gone up by 50,000 cedis to 300,000 cedis. And in dollar terms, they're talking about just about $26,000. $26,000 for the winning team in the Premier League in Ghana after a whole season of football with coaching staff, players. What will each get if you do the maths? Let's make some assumptions for a start as we try to break this down and make sense of this amount that they received here, of the 300,000 cedis that they took home, right? Assuming there are no administrative costs to be paid, and this is a stretch because we know you have administrative costs you have to take care of in running a football club and sponsoring them to travel across the country and play football. So we're making a huge assumption here, but let's make that assumption for a second, just for the sake of argument, right? Assuming that's the case, and if you look at the total squad for MEDEAMA of 35 players, according to the GFA, which is the number they said, you can have less, but let's just work with the number under assumption, okay? You're talking about each player taking home 8,571 cedis. But we all know that's not what will happen here because these assumptions are a huge assumption that I complete stretch, and I repeat that. But if you're making these assumptions, let's hold these assumptions constant. Each player, assuming all the money is going to the players, the 300,000 cedis that they get, each player gets 8,571 cedis for what you've played, the game and the effort and everything, the traveling and everything else. They take 8,500 cedis to go home. But that tells you a story about player welfare, salaries they're taking home as well, the team itself, and all the expenses. So I can bet each player would not get anything close to this. Anything. We'll get my sports guys to give me a sense of this one we say. So you begin to see the problem immediately. But then the GFA will tell you it's linked to sponsorship. If the league is not being sponsored, right, or the sponsorship is not big enough, of course, you don't expect all the money to be thrown at the winning team. So is that the motivation? So we begin to ask the question, when you complain that the Black Stars aren't doing well and that the Black Stars selection, they get no player from the local league, you begin to see where the challenge is, right? If you have this, what sort of quality do you expect to get when you are paying far, far less than this? When you win a league, you get 300,000 cedis. There are bigger questions there beyond just the Black Stars not doing well and Black Stars not getting any player from the local league. When we play that chant, where you play all the local players on the African continent, you see how poorly we performed because of the numbers I'm showing you here on your screen. Now, I want to do a comparison, okay? I want to go back for a second. This is the Ghana story as far as the numbers are concerned and when you win and what you get. Let's compare to our colleagues and our friends on the continent. I want to quickly go to some of the countries we know and we play football with and against, and we beat them sometimes and we're excited, right? So let's start with, this is the Ghana story, right? $29,000. So let's use the dollars for a second. You see the CDC here also, right? Nigeria, we love to hate Nigeria when we are playing football. In their local league, if you win the league, you take him $215,000. Cool. If you win the Nigerian league, that's what you take home, $215,000. If you win a Ghana league, you go home with $26,000. You see what the story is? That is the story. Yeah, we beat Nigeria to qualify to the World Cup, but they have a stronger, far more financed, in terms of muscle, financial muscle. They're pumping in a bit more money in their league. And so they are producing a lot of players right, who are coming in because of this, sponsorship. Yeah, we beat them, but, maybe many will say we are blocking a lot of players who are playing in European leagues and put them in there to play. So that is first problem that we're beginning to see. The disparity here is huge. 26,000, 215,000 is huge. Cameroon, another footballing nation in the West African sub-region. If you win in Cameroon, as a team in the league, you go home with $163,000. If you win in Ghana, comparison, $26,000. That again tells a story. So even in the sub-region, the countries that we know we want to rub shoulders with when we play football, Nigeria and Cameroon, they're doing a bit more. Many will say it comes down to sponsorship. If you don't have the money, you can't spend. Is that as simple as I put it? Right. So that's a fair story. And then I want to track back to a campaign that this GFA, the administration, started, which was to, first of all, engender a bit more excitement in the league, and in doing so, attract more sponsors, okay? And they started with this hashtag, BRINGBACKTHELOVE. You remember this, right? And so how have they fared on the back of this? The first task of the association and the new administration was to reclaim the lost interest in the business of Ghana's national teams. That the lost interest, we all lost interest in the Black Stars after the debacle of what happened to be Brazil. We lost interest, right? So they wanted to bring us back. They wanted to engender a bit more love in here. That was a goal. Second goal, ignite the passion and galvanize support for the Black Stars. So have they done this? Have they achieved this years on? Let's look at some of the few indicators. So we think these indicators will give us a sense, right? The first thing we are going to look at is attendance. If it is exciting, if there's love and the love is back, it should show. People should show that by going to watch football. You should be prepared to pay to watch. Okay, so let's look at the story of attendance. If you look at Asante Kotoko, and this is Kumasi, and there's a reason why we go to Kumasi to play a lot of our Black Stars matches. Why? Because that's the place where we believe we get more enthusiasm and people are more inclined to go to the stadium. And they love Asante Kotoko. They'll die for Kotoko. Okay, so what's the story there? According to our colleagues in Kumasi, Love FM, they did some, sample of this. If you look at Baba Yara Sports Stadium, the Kotoko averaged 4,585 spectators in 2021 and 2022, the league season, in a stadium that had more than 40,000 capacity. This is just 11% of the stadium capacity. That instantly, assuming this is correct, that instantly tells you a story of people and going to the matches, even in the part of the country where they live and breathe Asante Kotoko, right? They live and breathe football. They love it, right? That's the story. Averaging 4,500 fans in the stadium with 40,000 plus capacity. So that instantly tells you that the Bring Back the Love campaign that was started years back is not yielding the outcome that the GFA actually expected. And if you look at other matches, for example, particular matches, like this case where Kotoko played Bechem United, they had 950 spectators turned out to watch that match, right? And they realized only 594 cedis as revenue. So already, you know that beyond what they get at the end of the league, whether they win or lose, they're not getting enough from other sources to run the clubs, because a lot of the clubs will have to rely on attendance, but that is also not coming through as a story. And then you look at King Faisal. When they played King Faisal, you had only 48 people watching that game in that stadium. Huge stadium. 40 plus thousand, only 48 people went there to watch the game at Baba Yara Sports Stadium. We just don't watch our game, but we'll pay to get DSTV and enjoy the Premier League. And when I growing up in the Dabraka, there was this very popular spot beside my house called Aponchi Sport. And I remember I used to get money, save a bit, and when United was playing, I will go and pay to watch. And I'm pretty sure what I was paying to watch that game in a pub was more than I'll pay if I go to the stadium to watch House of Folk. Guilty as charged, yes, but it tells you a story, okay? And then there was a GPL Centers, another campaign, because they realized this was a problem. So they wanted to fix it. They started this campaign, fill the stadiums, go there and watch. So what was the outcome? It came with several complaints. And I want to show you a few. A lot of the people who are stalwarts in the game in Ghana themselves started complaining about that. This is a headline with management is a problem. Aziz Futa, who know he's a staunch supporter of House of Folk, the poor attendance at House of Folk games, complain about that. Another one, hashtag fill GPL centers. So our doctor shares solutions to problems affecting poor operation of local games. You see the story of, again, a few people cramped up in the small area. Kwabena Japan also talks about the problem with people attending the sports games there. And then you have another one here with Ashanti NSA boss also talking about the problem with people just not going to watch our games. So the love isn't there, right? So that tells you the story of where we are. And maybe it's a reason why you have... Is it possible that MEDEAMA won that? Because the established clubs, as you see, the case of Kotoko, the support isn't there anymore. Are we possibly seeing a shift in support towards these smaller clubs because maybe they're doing something different? But there are real fundamental questions that we need to engage, just beyond MEDEAMA winning and House of Folk and Kotoko losing out, including the question about dominance. And I know this is one that many people are very passionate about. But let's sit down and let's break this down a bit more when my guests and the lads join me. A lot of them are in the studio already. Fentio, Kranting, and then, of course, we'll get the GFA representative also joining us for a conversation. And then the House of Folk, the Kotoko man himself, who was in charge of Kotoko Express, will join us with his thoughts on it. I know he has very strong views on this as well. If you have views also, you love football, don't hesitate to share with me. After this break, we'll sit down for a conversation. And Dr. Tony Orban is joining us via Zoom. He is the GFA Executive Committee member, but also a board chairman of MEDEAMA FC. And congratulations to him because they've done great work getting MEDEAMA to where they currently are. Daniel Kranting is with me in the studio. Tahirus Fentio is with me in the studio as well. And guess who else is joining us right now on Zoom? Jerome Otri is a former editor of Kotoko Express. And he also joined that. His team plays fourth. But let me start with Dr. Tony Orban. Doc, congratulations to you. Do you want to sum up quickly for us what made the difference for MEDEAMA this year?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers and panelists as well. I think it was determination and focus that really did the trick. You remember at a point in time, our performance was not very consistent, and we're getting worried. So I recall calling an emergency meeting, and guess what? I was in church on Sunday at that time. I drove from church in my church clothes to Cape Coast to hold that emergency meeting. And then we continued to tackle to sort of try and finalize our meeting from Cape Coast. So I think it was more about focusing on what we had aimed at. Our initial target was to win the league, especially because of the history that really worked against us, if you like, the various force majeures that worked against us, including the announced situation where we went to normalization, and then also the COVID situation where we're in both situations we were leading, and the leagues had to be truncated. So this time we thought it was an opportune time to win the league. So we had prepared. We had sort of brought in some young talented players. We had also focused a bit more on local recruitment. So some of the players around come from the Takwa area. But it was a strategy we adopted just to manage the cost of keeping players and all that. So I think it was more about determination.
Yeah, but I need to ask you: would you agree that the shambolic performance of the established super houses, House of Folk, Kotoko in particular, may have aided MEDEAMA's success also this season?
I don't know what is shambolic performance. That was their performance, and because what they did, if it were in the past, they would have still won the league because that would have meant a good performance. So what you describe as shambolic is quite relative. I think the day of the dominance of these clubs are over. And this is a reflection of football globally. I mean, who ever thought that Saudi Arabia would beat Argentina and many other surprises that are coming up in football? Who ever thought that playing the Galaxies playing Madagascar would beat Ghana local Black Stars? It was unthinkable. It was unheard of. So generally, we must accept that there's a certain trend that is leading to those unsung clubs coming up because this time around they have the right clues and they are using the right approach.
I see. Stay with me. Jerome Otri, do you agree with Dr. Obeng's assessment that the days of the dominance of those clubs, and here is referencing your own Kotoko and Asafok, those days are over? You agree?
Well, I would say for this moment, yes. But I can assure him that MEDEAMA is going to come back next season, seeing Hearts and Kotoko rising again, whether he likes it or not. Because the truth of the matter is that once in a while, you are going to see clubs rise like this. And a season or two, you won't find them again. I remember Aduana Stars dominating pretty well in 2009. They won the league right away from the time they came from Division 1. Now, the only time Aduana had come close again to winning the league again was this season, and they lost it. And if you are looking at it, that's about 10 years difference or more. So I'm saying that, yes, let's give it to MEDEAMA. I agree that they end it. I mean, they beat Kotoko at home. And once you lose at home, you should expect that you're not going to come close to the title. And I am not surprised Kotoko didn't do well. I think after 6-7 matches, I could tell that we were going to have a tough season.
Why were you too surprised? What was the problem?
Well, I think a lot of things didn't go well for us this season, and particularly with coaching. I feared that once the coach who led us to our league title win last season was not going to be with us, I feared that we were going to experience challenges. And that's exactly what came to pass. And once I had the CEO even admitting that at some point, decisions on coaching became a problem. And I think that's a major reason why we didn't do well.
Okay,
but whatever you say, you also have to admit that MEDEAMA deserve it, they worked for it, and they've had it.
Okay, so that is assessment. And Fenju, let me come to you here. So where do you stand on this? The dominance of Hearts and Kotoko over? Or this is just one of those Leicester moments?
I think the dominance has been over for a long time. In the last 10 years, I believe, going back to, let's say the last 7 years, Kotoko and Hearts have won the title once each time. And they won it back-to-back in 2021 and 2022. Hearts of Oak won in 2021. It was their first title in 11 years. Kotoko won last year, and that was their first title since 2016. So it's been a long time coming, since 2015 actually. So it's been a long time coming for both clubs, and their dominance have been long over, especially in the Ghana Premier League. And it started in the late 2000s, and that's what Jerome talked about. When a team can come from Division 1 and their very first season in the Ghana Premier League, they go all the way to win the title.
The story is
this is Aduana Stars in 2010. It was a magical story. The following year, Brekum Chelsea won the league. Hearts of Oak and Kotoko were nowhere near. Kotoko came back in 2012, of course, with Maxwell Knote, won the league, and then they went on a 3-year run where they won the league in 2012, 2013, 2014. Then Ashanti Gold took over in 2015. Wow Stars won in 2016, 2017, Aduana Stars. So Hearts of Oak and Kotoko have not dominated this league in the past 10 years, and the numbers are there to show. They've struggled, really struggled. And other clubs...
2 seasons ago, and the team now is a completely different team. recruitment has been poor in terms of the caliber of players who have left and those who have come in. They are just not up to the standard. In terms of coaching decisions, yes, you may argue that someone like Samuel Bedu should have gone, but when he leaves, you need somebody who is almost at his level or better to come in and continue the job that he did. We've just not seen that proper transition in terms of players and coaching, and it was a huge to get fenced.
It's been over for a while. Okay, so but there are bigger issues beyond MEDEAMA winning and etc. So we have a new world order now, I guess, from what you're saying in the local league.
The new order.
A new Ghanaian order in the local league. But as I illustrated, so MEDEAMA won and got 300,000 cedis as a winning prize. Yeah. You go back to the years before, it was 250,000 cedis. And I compare to Nigeria, where $200,000, because of course this is $26,000 cedis, $26,000 compared to $215,000 in Nigeria and $160,000 in Cameroon. Is that a problem? Is that a reflection of the football that we are playing in Ghana?
The people that made that determination, one of them is with us. Why don't we ask him?
Yeah, I mean, but I want to hear your assessment first, because of course he's an interested party. Okay, so I'm curious just to know from your own
he's in
assessment.
a very interesting position, Evans, because he's an executive committee
of the GFA.
Of the GFA. The GFA are the ones that paid that money to his club, MEDEAMA Sporting Club.
Yeah.
So, I'm really interested in what Dr. Tony Obing has to say about that prize money. My personal opinion is, of course, it doesn't. Listen, Evans, let's stop massaging issues. It doesn't take. It is disrespectful. It's embarrassing, to be honest, that you would travel around the country for one full season and play 34 matches, and then at the end of the day, you're giving a dummy check for $26,000 as league champions of a country that calls itself a footballing country. Because, and you see, we have to be serious about what we want as a country. The football, we are just playing the football. Everybody else is doing the football. Do we want to do the football? If we want to do the football, we need to invest. And I don't think that giving $26,000 to the champions is testament to any commitment whatsoever that we are serious about developing the league. I can understand that there are challenges, but we've also witnessed situations where the same football association with other entities that they control that have been giving an awful lot more money than the league champions have been.
Such as
the Black Stars. We've seen it before. Even the last World Cup.
Because they have sponsorship. I mean, the state sponsors.
But that's the point.
But we go to Parliament and get a budget approved for the Black Stars.
Thank you very much. I have never seen a budget presented to Parliament about potentially giving money to support our local league. Why is that not possible? Why can't we prepare a budget to go and give it to government to raise sponsorship? They went to meet the president. The GFA went to meet the president, had a conversation with him, and then it became clear the president decided, let me meet the whole of corporate Ghana to raise what? It was $24 or $26 million to support the Black Stars for 2 tournaments where they finished embarrassingly last in their groups. In the AFCON, they didn't even win a single tournament. I'm not saying don't spend money in the Black Stars. I'm saying if you can find money to spend in the Black Star, it is possible to find money to support the local league. And I say that local league is probably more important in a way that it supports the local economy. It is the Ghana Premier League is the biggest employer in the Ghana football ecosystem. It's not the Black Stars. Do you understand me? Because each team registers up to 30 players. Multiply that by 18. All of them have professional contracts. They have to be paid. Listen, there are 9 matches every weekend in the Ghana Premier League. When you go to every venue,
the referees, you have to pay the backroom staff.
Thank you. It employs a lot, and there are people that come to sell. So there is a lot of economy or economic activity around the local league, much more than the Black Stars, who play on the average maximum maybe 10 games in a year. You understand my point? So I'm saying that, and this is not just about the GFA alone. I'm also looking at government. We need to make that commitment and say that the local league is where is the biggest employer in this country, as far as the football ecosystem is concerned, that there's more economic activity around the local league than at any national.
Let me bring in Dr. Tony Obeng.
We need to do that. The government needs to commit resources to supporting the league as well.
Dr. Tony Obeng, first, I want to speak to you as the board chair of MEDEAMA, and then I'll come to you as the GF Executive Committee member. As a representative of MEDEAMA and the board chair, you get 300,000 cedis when you win the league. What does that do for a team like yours?
I wonder if it was really 300,000. I have to be very sure if it was that. But I quite agree that after the cost of going through the league, your reward is 300,000. It's become very worrying. But you're right. You can't give what you don't have. The FA is running many other activities. It's providing some other support. In those days when smaller teams have to struggle to get boots, football, and all those things, these days the FA tries to provide some of these things to support. And I totally agree that our leagues must be fully supported. I was given an analogy that if you imagine that, the MEDEAMA has about 40 players that it keeps, it feeds, it pays, it accommodates. Imagine if you would throw these young guys into the system, unemployed, what it would mean. Multiply it by the 18 Premier League clubs who are having almost about the same numbers, and then go back to even the Division 1 and Division 2. So seriously speaking, football is a major employer of our young people in this country. Yet, because we haven't looked at the economics very well, we have always looked at the fact that people go to the pitches and play and do skills and make us happy, and that's the end. We have left the economic side of football. And that is where I agree that government and other stakeholders must take an active part.
But Dr. Tony, I'm specifically curious. So in Nigeria, when you win the league in Nigeria, you get $215,000. When you win it in Cameroon, you get $163,000. So that's established there. But so when your club takes $300,000, who gets what? And what does it really do in covering the cost that you've spent throughout the season?
Infinitesimal. It doesn't do much. And I even think that Nigeria, for its size and for its wealth, maybe the $200,000 or the $150,000 is probably not enough. I think we tend to be using football to creating employment, to doing other things, but in actual fact, we are not making our skin get into the game. We are not being part of the sandwich. We're just biting around it. So I think it's about time we commit. Well, you see, the FA, you would ask, where are they getting the monies to pay?
Yeah. Well, this money, where did they get it from? Is it from the sponsorship?
Yes, from the sponsorship.
Okay.
And if you look at part of the, in Ghana, you don't make money from from gate proceeds. You don't have TV rights, really serious TV rights, sponsorship. You don't have all these things that the European clubs do have. And I think that's the reason why the concept of autonomous league probably is much more attractive, because it gives you the chance of focusing directly on the biggest product of the country, which is the Premier League, apart from Black Stars, and then maybe use that to rake in more sponsors. We play on pitches that are really not very attractive to TV. I am sure Joy FM would not want to take its cameras to certain pitches in this country. And I think we need to be able to change this. Yeah. I mean, I have suggested, for example, that we should limit the areas, the pitches where we play. You go to Ivory Coast, the whole league is played on 4 stadia, only 4, and the league is played there. So when you watch the league, you are impressed. In Tanzania, because of these changes, you can see a lot of sponsorship coming into Tanzanian league, and that is how come you have a player playing for the national team or the second tier of the national team.
Dr. Tony, I need to ask you, but you are an executive committee member of the GFA. So how come all these great suggestions have not been adopted?
No, I mean,
Hello, Dr.
You have time to work on some of these. To go autonomous has been there and been working on. It's a work in progress. And I think one of the suggestions would be to identify, in terms of pitches, to identify some of the good pitches. And I think we are very lucky. When you go to the Western region, for example, you have the Gophers, the Takwa pitch, which is coming up and will be one of the best in the country. You do have Cape Coast, the Western and Central. You do have Cape Coast Stadium. And which else? Now, if you go to Ashanti, you have the Lenclair Stadium there. You have the Kumasi Sports Stadium, Babayara Sports Stadium, and then the new one built by Dr. Kwamichi. So these pitches are standard pitches. If you go to the Middle Belt, you have the Nsuatreman, you have the Nana Adimambedu, and the Tamale Sports Stadium. So
okay.
If you
that's one of the suggestions. I want to bring in Jerome, but just before I go to Jerome, I want to ask you, because you are board chairman of MEDEAMA, what does it take? How much does it cost you to run a season, to go through a season to the end? Can you put a number to it? How much does it cost you, and how do you?
I will not be able to put a specific number, but it will not be less than $400,000, $300,000 thereabout.
Okay, so that's how much you're spending, and then at the end of the day, so what's the point then? I mean, I have to ask myself, if you're spending $400,000 a season, and then to get 300,000 CDs at the end of that season, so what's the point then of running a club? How does it work? Why do you do it?
Well, you also have to look for other businesses around the club. If you are able to get great players and also exchange for some benefit, if you're able to sell a couple of players, maybe that would help. But we haven't gotten there yet, and that is why we are actively working with the ESCO or with the FA, trying to change the league system for the better and our football for the better. Because seriously speaking, we are not making much. We are not making almost zilch. You're making almost zilch from our football. And it's so expensive for these club owners to run a league club. Obviously, once you're part of it, there's a pride in winning. There's pride in being the Premier League champion. But it comes at a cost. Yeah. And this is...
this is fascinating stuff, really, when you begin to look at the numbers.
I think...
Yeah, let me bring in Jerome quick. Jerome, so that's the story. So fundamentally, there's a lot wrong with, if you're not exciting people and the product is poor, as Dr. Tony Obin has said, you don't expect eyeballs. If you don't get eyeballs, you don't expect to get sponsorship. So the cycle is all wrong.
Yeah, and Evans, we can't put the blame anywhere else but on the doorstep of the FA. Look, the GFA has been running from its responsibility. The Ghana Premier League does not belong to anybody but the FA. And if you want to make the product better, you make a case for it. I've done an article I'll publish tomorrow morning saying that I don't think the FA cares about the league. They don't. And I'll tell you what, Fent was going to that area. In the World Cup budget submitted to government for approval, as much as $215,000 was designated as honorarium for FA officials, for people who were going to do some kind of work for the FA or for the World Cup team. I'm not saying that people shouldn't work people shouldn't be paid or given something for the work they do. But I'm saying that if I run a league whose prize money is $26,000, I will not put an honorarium or a World Cup budget with an honorarium amounting over $200,000. It is an insult. It is an insult to anybody doing club football. And surprisingly, they approve this and pay themselves. And when it comes to the league, then they run to say there's no sponsorship. Then let's shut down the league. Let us shut down the league. The government of Ghana is interested in Ghana football. I don't believe that if FIFA has given Ghana over $8 million for our World Cup participation, and the sports minister says that we saved about $3 million, I don't think that if the FA is able to make a credible, worthy statement to the government of Ghana that, look, our Ghana Premier League is dying. The winner of the competition takes as low as $26,000. Can we just make, let's say, $100,000 available from the remaining $3 million we saved from the World Cup for the champion of the Ghana Premier League? I don't think the Ghana government will say no. They have not done that. If they have done that, we are yet to hear it. Yet they are able to pay themselves fat, bonuses. This is something the FA has, not been capable or not been able to confirm. $500,000 was paid to management committee members of the Black Stars. $500,000. So, and I'm saying that you can't make such justifications for whatever work you do in, say, 3 weeks for the Black Stars. And then you run back to tell us that because there's no sponsorship for the Ghana Premier League, $26,000 is what will be given to the champion of the league. So I'm saying, in a nutshell, that the FA doesn't care about the product. It is lip service. They are not interested in improving the standards because there's so many things wrong with the league.
Yeah, Jerome, stay with me. Daniel, so is it lack of prioritization? Is it FA getting its priorities wrong? But is that why Ghanaians are simply not going to the stadium to watch? Because that's where it starts. Because if we have eyeballs and there's excitement, you get more money in there because advertisers will see the product and say, thousands and thousands of people are going to. As I was intimating, his own team here, when you go to the stadium, for example, as Love News had documented, 400,000 people, 4,500 people in a stadium of 40,000 people averaging over the season. So what is it? Is it the FA's problem? You agree with him?
Look, Evans, we can't run away from the fact that it's quality. We are in 2023. We need to understand that where we've reached in today's world, there's access to alternatives. On Saturday afternoon, you can't guilt trip me to go to a Ghana Premier League center and tell me I'm a Ghanaian. If I can pick my remote and change it and it will be Man United playing. We are playing at the same time. That is competition. So the level of quality must be at par and compete to the point where I'll be conflicted as to which one I want to watch. Not you telling me that you are Ghanaian, you don't watch the Ghana Premier League. It's not by force, it's quality. Why has Fan Milk not collapsed? Because Fan Ice is nice. Yogurt is nice. So no matter the amount of foreign ice creams that come into the system, we'll still buy Fan Ice because it's nice. It is a fact. King's Bites and things are doing well because it is nice. They've maintained that quality. They can match up to the foreign quality. I went to Morocco this weekend. And let me before this show, if I asked you, what team do you support? You tell me Man U.
Of course.
Thank you.
If I want to, save face, I also ask for football.
Tell me Man U. When I went to Morocco, not one single person, I did my personal experiment. I asked about 20 people. Not one single person mentioned the name of a foreign team.
You're kidding.
What team do you support? Raja, Wydad. I was in Casablanca. It's just as simple as that because when you watch their product, Sunday was a CAF Champions League. Yeah. When you watch the football, that is quality. They've invested from grassroots, so it feeds up until the senior level. Even the players they export are of a certain standard. And football is now scientific. You can't run away from that fact. The coaching, the syllabus at the grassroots level. Facility. Look, you can't run away from it. Once you don't have it, it will affect the quality at the top. And what will happen is that your consumers will not appreciate it. It's not body's fault that you have to go and beg for sponsorship. If it was good, people will run and they will beg you to sponsor the league. It's as simple as that. It's simply based on quality. And if you don't invest now, you can't continue to...
Is it fair to say it's all because it's all down to the GFA?
It's not entirely
GFA.
GFA.
It's entirely down to them, but they need to take huge responsibility for it. As for that one, it's a no-brainer. You see, I'm not of that school of thought that you can't come and guilt trip somebody for not watching. You say you are guilty. You're not guilty for anything. Do you want to enjoy yourself on a Saturday afternoon or not?
Of course I do.
Why do you have to force yourself to watch Ghana Premier League if it's not giving you pleasure? It's as simple as you're a consumer.
Yeah.
If they do their job, you will watch. If they don't, you keep watching Man U.
And you talk about the experience, something Daniel talked about, the quality. If you go on a Sunday afternoon to go and watch a Ghana Premier League game, what are they telling there apart from the football itself? Because it's an economy. Nobody goes to the stadium just to go and watch 22 people kick the ball around only. That's not why you go to the stadium. There has to be so much more around it. Okay? If you go to the Accra Sports Stadium, the amount of money you spend buying handkerchiefs trying to clean the chairs, next time you won't go because you finish your money there. No, and that's the truth. If your stomach says "ka" and you say you want to go and use the washroom at the Accra Sports Stadium, you will swear never to get back there.
This is the Accra Sports Stadium I'm talking about.
Kumasi Sports Stadium, all of our facilities, and that is one of the biggest problems.
So the place is not maintained.
It's not, and there is
But you
no.
have the sports authority.
And there's no
Isn't that-
experience,
isn't that
and I'm
right?
coming to that. And there's no experience when you go to our match venues. When Lagos Cities first came in, and they even did a simplest thing of bringing musicians to the stadium, Lagos Cities had no support there. It's a club based in Wa. They bought it to Accra, named it Lagos Cities. Lagos people don't even go and support them, but they brought artists, and that season, the numbers they had at the Accra Sports Stadium was more than any other club that probably had been playing in that stadium, bar House of Folk. You understand me? They brought a different experience. And listen, when I say the government needs to take a keen interest in this is what I mean. When the clubs play a game, take House of Folk, when they play a game at the Accra Sports Stadium, whatever money they get, even if House of Folk get 1 cedi, House of Folk would lose 50% of that money to statutory deductions. So the NSA takes 15% of every revenue at the stadium, 5% of which they say they are dedicating to maintenance, and the other 10% you've used our facilities, so pay. What do they use that money for? Because the stadiums are clearly unmaintained. GACA takes a share, GFA takes a share, security agencies take a share, the NSA takes a share.
Is this why the national team, our national team, the Black Stars and all the teams that we have, it's so detached from the local league? So you have all the players coming from else. It's like there's no connection at all between the local league and the national. Is that why that is?
Have you noticed?
I mean, currently, is that why that is?
It's clearly, it's about if you are not of the quality, how can you make the standard?
But the players that play in Europe, they come, and Tony Elvin was honest enough that you hope that you can sell one player to a team in Europe and make make a killing out of it. But the players, they come from the local league.
It boils down to what Daniel said earlier. It's quality. As for the national team, it doesn't matter where the players.
I guess my question is that Amates and the
They play for Inter Allies.
Exactly. So they come from the local league. So the same local league produced them.
Yeah, but when they get the
See, it's far more complicated.
Okay, than that. Okay.
You see, but I was making a point about the commitment. Okay, why is it possible that when the national team is about to play a game at the Baba Yara Stadium in Kumasi, the NSA can close down the stadium to Ghana Premier League clubs for 1 month in trying to put the stadium in shape for the Black Stars game? And yet
Because
the same team that had been playing there, the moment the Black Stars are done, you don't give two. You don't care about what it is.
So I've heard you
Why
say, I think there's consensus around the table that the FA itself must do more in selling the product and improving it. But secondly, government must take an interest in also investing, helping to invest because of the local economic benefits that you've outlined. Anyway, so there are bigger questions there. You can't exhaust this question in one show, but at least MEDEAMA is at the top. As Jerome has said, maybe it's a Leicester. And so, as you know, they've been relegated in the EPL, and that maybe this is just, something that just happens one season. But the big questions need to be addressed. And I know Tony Obing wants to say something to this, but I wish you well, Mr. Obing, that next season you show Jerome Otri that you're really here to stay. But the bigger questions about Ghana football itself needs to be addressed. And as we've discussed already, it's far bigger than just giving somebody 300,000 cedis when they've spent almost $400,000 to run a campaign to the end of the season. Enjoy the rest of the day.